Hey, welcome to Games Vitae. My name is Majay, and today we are going over 50 through 41 of the top 100 games of 2025. Yes, we are halfway through 2026. This is like the end of June, and we're still working on this. A lot of the reasons why this is taking so long was explained a couple videos ago. If you want to look through it, go ahead. But we're going to finish this series. So before we go on, please remember to like, subscribe, and hit the notification button. Share it with your friends. Let's get this channel a little bit more out there. All right. So, number 50. Yeah, number 50 on the list is a game I don't own. I've played it quite a few times, and I've come to realize that I'm kind of in the minority in that I like an expansion that nobody else seems to like. I don't know why. But number 50 is the Quacks of Quedlinburg. And no, I do not like the second edition that has just been reduced to Quacks. I think the art is horrific, and they should have left it as is. Quacks of Quedlinburg is just your prototypical bag builder, where you're pressing your luck and trying to get as many points and build your bag accordingly to help you continue to get those points. The expansion that I seem to like that doesn't seem to be in very high regard is the Alchemist expansion. And I've only played it a couple of times. Like I said, I don't own it. The person that I play it with, my son, doesn't live nearby, so we don't necessarily get to play it very often. So I wouldn't be able to tell you exactly why I like the Alchemists, but it just seems to add some functionality, some playability to the game that speaks to me. I actually didn't do very well with the Quacks of Quedlinburg until I played it with the Alchemist expansion, and then for some reason I felt like I had a little bit more control over the situation. I don't know what it was, but the Quacks of Quedlinburg, the original Quacks of Quedlinburg, is what I really like, and that is number 50. If you can find the Quacks of Quedlinburg, the old version, not the new version with the absolute idiotic art, I would try and get it. I've kept my eyes open for the big box that has everything, but they're disappearing rather quickly. So anyway, that's number 50. Number 49. This is another press your luck game, actually, but it's not magically themed like the Quacks of Quedlinburg. And that is Rallyman GT. Rallyman GT, I don't have any of the expansions. I wanted to get them, but the original expansions that were with it, I was hoping to get through a deal that a guy that worked at the warehouse that contained all of the stock for Holy Grail Games, which went under, found out they were going to sell them off. So he bought a bunch of it and was selling it to people who wanted to get their pledge. Well, by the time I found out about it, all of the Rallyman GT stuff had been sold. So I could have gotten Rallyman Dirt, which I would really like, but I'm not playing this enough to justify getting Dirt. I would like it. I really would. But I would like to play this more before I expanded it. Maybe get more of the expansions for this. Anyway, Rallyman GT is a racing game, but it's not your typical roll and move game, where you roll a 1 and you move 1. You have a set of dice, and each die has a gear on it. So there's a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5, and each die also has what they call caution symbols on it. And you can chart out your path by placing the die on the track where your car is going to go. And you can choose to roll them one by one and stop when you want, or you can roll them all at once and press your luck that way. If you roll them all at once and you don't bust, which if you get 3 caution symbols, you bust, and then your car spins out and you break down, you have to waste a turn getting back into the race and then start again. But if you don't bust, you get these tokens that allow you to negate these caution symbols on future rolls. And there's other stipulations about how you can move your car, and you can't pass a car while you're going in a lower gear of a car that's going in a higher gear. And it's I really like it. I want to play it more. It just gets a little pushback when I want to get it to the table. I would seriously like to get all of the expansions for GT, including the Kickstarter material. I got this off retail at a really good deal. You can sometimes find this at like $20. At least that's how I got it, 20 or $25. And same thing with Dirt, Rallyman Dirt. But Rallyman GT is a nice change of theme and mechanics for my collection. And I don't understand why it doesn't get more publicity. Right now, it competes with other likely themed games like Heat, which, I mean, Heat is a global sensation. But Rallyman, I think, doesn't get its due. It's a great game that presents a natural push your luck situation. And it's a game that I want to play more. So that's Rallyman GT at 49. Number 48 is a new game to the list. And I've never played the game that it's been compared to, but I'm enjoying this game, but sometimes it feels a little anticlimactic. And that is Etherstone. This game has a really neat mechanic of drafting dice to get certain abilities, and those dice, depending on the color or the number on those dice, activate cards in your tableau. And everybody starts with a hand of 7 cards through drafting or through, if you're playing it for the first time, set hands. But you take turns either drafting die or casting a card, which means playing a card down. And you can only cast a card by paying for it with the right stones that you get from drafting dice or other abilities. And there's a lot of engine building here where you're trying to play cards that will play off each other. And you end the game by either getting emptying out the point pool, which each, depending on the player count, has a certain amount of points available, or laying all the cards down in your hand, that's a trigger, or clearing out the creature pool that there's boss battling to put it bluntly. Anyway, there's a lot going on in this game. And it's a living game. They're going to continue to build on it, and they've already made some adjustments for upcoming expansions. But I really like the game. The components are really neat. I would argue maybe they could have done like actual, like tokens, like, because you're drafting dice to get ether stones, but the stones are wood. And that's obviously better than cardboard. But if you're gonna call something a stone, let's make it stone. Anyway, either way, it's a really nice game. I like the mechanics, and I want to play more of it. But I want to see if the anticlimactic feeling of it goes away. So that is Etherstone at number 48. Number 47 is, I think this game is really undervalued because it's made by Kids Table Board Gaming, but it has playability that goes beyond superficial. And that's the case with most of their games. if you know anything about that. But this is power plants. That's number 47. Power plants, you have these tiles that represent different kinds of plants. And depending on the card that tells you the ability, there's multiple cards that you can use for the abilities of these plants. There's a primary ability and there's a secondary ability. The primary ability lets you take advantage of the tile itself. The secondary ability lets you take advantage of the tiles that surround it. So it's a really great game. I haven't played it in a while, but it's a game that I've played with my middle daughter out of my three, and we've played it quite a bit, but that's been some time. This is a game that I think could really show more depth than you expect, and that's why I got it. It's a game that the components, I got the deluxe version through Kickstarter, where all the tiles are wood, and it's very nice. It's a great game. I don't know what else to tell you about it. There's some other expansions that are in it that I haven't tried. I've only tried the basic game, and like I said, there's a lot of replayability here, and some surprises to people who haven't tried it. So if you haven't tried this, it's a very easy game to learn. It's a game that you can share with your friends and family. That it's an interesting take on area control too, because you've got these sprites that you're putting down on these tiles, and that has to do with how you score. But sometimes I run out of words to describe a game, maybe because I've said everything I need to say. But I feel like there's a lot to be said about this game that I'm not saying. And I mean that in a positive way. So it's a game for up to 5 players. So you could really include a good family in this. And that's kids' table board gaming's shtick, is that they create games that are accessible enough for younger players, but still challenging enough for older players. And I think that Power Plants lives up to that mantra. So that's number 47. Number 46. Oh, here we go. This is a game that I think really kind of gets minimized by a lot of people. And maybe because people tend to think of it as not very replayable. It's abstract in nature, but I think you don't really see the abstract nature of it because of the theme. And that is photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is a situation where you're growing trees and harvesting the trees to get points. And if you stop there, I mean, don't get me wrong, there's plenty of strategy in that. I don't think it's easy to learn, hard to master type game. But if you stop there, I could see why people would maybe get bored with it if you played it a lot, which we don't play it a lot. We've got a lot of games. It competes. But not too long ago, a couple years ago, Photosynthesis came out with an expansion. I believe it's called Under the Moonlight. And that adds so much. It makes it such that gameplay is different from play to play. Because as it stands, Photosynthesis doesn't have any like asymmetric powers or anything. It's the same situation every time. Everybody has the same, everybody may have different colored trees, but they all function the same. There's nothing special about them. Under the Moonlight presents new things to it, where you have like a spirit animal, and those animals have different powers, and it is affected by now a moon mechanism. Anyway, it adds things to it. So a good game becomes even better. and I do like the expansion. So photosynthesis is something that I think is undervalued because it's viewed as something that isn't very replayable. I have to disagree, because more often than not, the people that are playing photosynthesis are big time gamers. And I mean, how often do they play it when they've gotten a collection of 100 games or 70 games or 50 games? Unless you really like it, at which point, where does the replayability argument come in if you're playing it a lot? I can see why somebody would get burnt out on a game, but I wouldn't necessarily say that's because of replayability. Anyway, beating that horse to death, photosynthesis is a really neat game. It's very colorful, it's very thematic, and in and of itself, you and your family will have a good time playing it. It's got good strategy where you have to plan ahead as to how you're going to expand your group of trees to be able to get the best spots, to get the best points, while also managing the resource of sunlight that enables you to do those things. So Blue Orange made photosynthesis years ago. They had that surprise of the Under the Moonlight expansion, and they said the first expansion. I've never seen another one. Maybe there is one, I just haven't heard of it. But I think there's more than enough to explore in the base game, and then adding the Under the Moonlight expansion adds a lot more. So that's for photosynthesis at number 46. Number 45, I Don't Own. This is a game I've been playing with a board game, with a game group that somebody owns, and I've actually told him about other expansions and things that have come up since then, and he's gotten everything. But up to this point, I've only played the base game, and that is Return to Dark Tower. Return to Dark Tower has it's an app-driven cooperative dungeon crawler type thing. It's not, you're not in a dungeon, but you're going around boss battling and trying to beat the overall boss, and the app kind of dictates to you some things that happen. And it's a really ingenious tower that interacts with the app, that releases certain things and opens certain threats and different things like that. And I've really enjoyed each time I've played it. I think that we would probably need to play it in a shorter time frame, back to back, to really start getting into more of the deeper content, because I know there's a lot more content that we haven't even touched. And because it's cooperative, I think it does suffer from like the alpha player problem, where some person says, okay, now we need to do this, and it's like, it's your turn. It's like, well, I'd kind of like to figure out what to do for myself. And I wouldn't say that necessarily happened when we played it, but I can see how it would. So number 45, Return to Dark Tower. It's an incredibly expensive game if you get it all. Even if you get the base game, it's pretty expensive just by itself. And understandably, they've got a piece of electronics that it's based off of a game from like the 80s called The Dark Tower. Well, Restoration Games has done a lot of those, and I've got a game on the list that is from them that I really, really like, but I haven't gotten to that yet. So there's a hint to the future. But Restoration Games has taken that game and made it into something that speaks to the modern audience. And I think there's a lot to it. Because I don't own it, I don't necessarily get to play it as often as I'd like. But I think that it would be, for people who could afford it, it would be a good family game. It would be a game that other people could use in their families, to include even younger kids, because it really speaks to the imagination. And the modern use of tablets and apps that interact with the game also would bring younger audiences in. So, Return to Dark Tower. I mean, the component quality is off the charts. The gameplay, based off of what I've seen so far, is challenging. I think that so far we've probably had easy campaigns, so I'd like to play it more and see if we could make it even more challenging. And who knows, maybe lose. We'll see. Sometimes we've won every time so far, and that's good. But at the same time, what keeps a game interesting is the possibility of losing. And if you win every time, how challenging is the game? So that's not a knock against Return to Dark Tower. I just want to explore the possibility of losing in that game and see how challenging it can be. So that is number 44. 45. That's 45. Yeah, 45. Okay, and 44 is another game I don't own, but I've played it. I like how it goes. It plays very well at higher player counts, and that is Seven Wonders. I've got other games that are based off of Seven Wonders on the list. I think I've already gone and covered one. No, I don't think I have. No, I haven't. So I've got a couple of games that I'm going to be covering that are based off the Seven Wonders system. But Seven Wonders is a classic game. It's been around forever, and it's got this simultaneous card drafting and playing to your own tableau that makes it a very accessible game, especially for families. And it's a game that I don't own, but I would like to own in the future because I think it's something that could very easily get to the table and very easily understood and taught. So it's been a long time since I played it, but I liked it enough that I think it deserves its spot on the list where I put it. So that is number 44. Not a lot to say on that one because, like I said, I haven't played it for a while. Okay, number 43 is... This game has really lived up to some of the things that people have said about it, and that is that it really stays on the table a long time. That's a nice way of putting it. Let me get it. My Father's Work. My Father's Work is extremely thematic. I like to play this on Halloween. It is extremely thematic, and there are 3 stages, and it really works out well. We played it with my son and his wife, and they liked it so much that his wife told her family about it, and they bought it, and they played it one time. It's where you go through 3 different generations, and each generation is performing experiments, and you can keep, when you die, when that generation dies, you can keep one completed experiment and one incomplete experiment. Everything else goes away. It's gone. And you need that because you're trying to complete your master work. Well, one time my son was playing it at his in-laws, and it was such that he played one generation and then he had to go and do something. So somebody else played another generation, and then that person got called away, and a third person ended up playing the 3rd generation. So it was thematic, like even to that point. It was really neat. And it really surprised me how the components are really neat. And it really surprised me also how challenging it is, because the last time we played it, we thought everything was going well. And I've come to the conclusion that when the third generation hits, it doesn't matter how well you've done so far, everything goes to hell. Sorry if that's harsh language, but everything just turns bad, and it becomes very challenging at that point to ward off the bad things that are happening. This is an app-driven game. I've got the app. I've also played it on through the website. I certainly hope that the app will always be supported, because without the app, this game is worthless. Yeah, I don't want this to go the way of Gollum Arcana. But it's a great game. It's worker placement where you have workers that can only be placed in certain things, certain areas. And you've got different tracks, some of which are you don't want to climb up on, like the creepiness track and the insanity track. And you don't want those things, but it happens. But My Father's Work is a really good game. This is a game that I'm actually kind of surprised that they haven't expanded. Maybe it hasn't done as well. I don't know. But it's a really good thematic game where you're placing workers and your conditions are affected based off of the choices you make and as recorded in the app. So it's kind of a choose your own adventure worker placement game. And it lives up to what it's trying to accomplish. So My Father's Work is number 40. What? There we go. 43. Let's just put it back here. Okay. Number 42. Boy, this game has... I don't know why more people don't like it. It's very accessible. It has a lot going on. It's got kind of a action selection worker placement combination mechanism. And this game was designed by the same guy who designed Seven Wonders and Tokaido. Victorian Masterminds. I got this because I was looking on the publisher's website and it was on clearance for just dirt cheap. I said, I can't go wrong. And I bought it, and it sat for a long time. But I ultimately opened it up, and it's got a really good theme. It's got a good theme, but I wouldn't say the theme necessarily comes out in the gameplay. You're placing these gear-shaped workers, and each worker does a different thing. And where you place the worker, you can get different things, and the worker itself does certain things. And you put them in stacks, such that I might be the first person that puts it down in a certain city. And then another person puts theirs down on top of it, or I could put another one on top of it. Anyway, once you get to a stack of 3, you flip it upside down, and the first person that placed their worker there does their action. And then the next player that works does their action. And you do both the city action, or the take advantage of what the city offers, and your worker. And there's a lot of, and all the while you're trying to build your doomsday machine. I think there's a lot of different ways in this game to get points. The times we've played it, the points were actually quite tight. So it kind of makes me wonder, if we played it more, if that continued to be the case, whether there's really any strategy in it, and it's just a matter of who. Well, that's kind of silly, but the closeness in points is something that is a little bit concerning, and I want to investigate more to see if certain strategies clear that up, or if that's just the case no matter what. Everybody's doing the same things. This is a game that would have lent itself very well to an expansion to present the different player powers for the different characters on the board or on the cover. And there are different asymmetric player powers based off of the machine that you're building. But again, this is just something that thematically could have really benefited from an expansion that did that. And maybe there was plans to do it depending on how well it did, and it just didn't do very well. But this is a game that has great table presence, has great components. I don't believe in the idea of something being overproduced. If somebody gives you really good components and it's overproduced in your eyes, why are you complaining about it? It's a great game, and in this case, it was great price. So this is a game that I really like getting to the table, and I want to just because I have a not necessarily a complaint, but a concern. I have a concern, same concern as I did with rival restaurants, that the rival restaurants right there, that there might be something about the game that makes it less desirable to play. I want to investigate it to see if that really is the case. But up to this point, I don't really have a reason to say I don't like it, and that's why it's at number 42. Okay, number 42 was Victorian Masterminds. Last one on the list for today is I've heard that this once been told by somebody. I think it's only one person that said it, but I can understand why. Is that this is Carcassonne on steroids. Tang Garden. One, the art is absolutely astounding. And yes, you're laying tiles very similar to how you would on Carcassonne, but there's so much more. There's worker placement in a way that scores you points based off of the character that you place, what they're pointed to see on their line of sight, and there's set collection, and it's just a really neat game. And I got the entire collection. This is just the expansion box, but the entire collection has a lot of replayability. There's things that you can add to the game. There's things that you can replace in the game, such that you're playing the game with different components, different setups, different characters, different objects, things like that. So there's a lot of things you can do with this game, and it's there's tracks that you can go up to gain more characters and things. Anyway, it's a great game. When the game first arrived, it had some problems, and it was known throughout the community that backed it. But overall, the game itself is a really enjoyable game. It's very, how do you say it, peaceful to play, but at the same time, a little bit stressful because you're trying to get a certain spot or a certain tile and a certain character and get certain things down such that it's in front of your character, so you score more points, and panoramas that you can get. Anyway, it's got a lot going for it. And Tang Garden is based off of my experience, and Carcassonne's not on my list, but based off my experience, I would play this before Carcassonne. And it's, like I said, the qualities and the table presence. Man, the table presence is really good. You feel like you're in a garden, this curated Oriental garden, and you're building it, and the feeling of tranquility that you have in it. Anyway, it's a great game. The art is fantastic, and the gameplay is, I think, simple enough that most families could play this. So that's Tang Garden. Okay, that is number 50 through 41. We're going to finish this series. I'm going to try and get another one out this week, try and get this up soon. But yeah, we'll keep plugging away until we get it all done. Until next time, please remember that no board games were harmed in the making of this video. So set your mind at ease, and we'll see you next time.